Go over to Barry Nutley. Barry, what's the situation over there? I gather it's very, very wet and
well,
nasty.
You're quite right, Helen. Yes, it's just beginning to come down now. It's been beautifully sunny this morning, but the clouds came over just as they did yesterday afternoon during practice. Torrential rain yesterday, and it's threatening now, which gives the riders a bit of a dilemma because we've got some frantic activity down there with tyre changing, and I'll get Steve Parrish, my co-commentator, to fill you in on that. A bit of a problem. So a good crowd here, tremendous crowd, good atmosphere at Mallory Park, but as you said, poor Alan Carter fell off not once but twice coming out of the gooseneck. The second time banged his head, and he won't be taking any further part in the proceedings. There, the famous mountain, the riders come up over there lifting the front wheel, the woodland circuit here at Cadwell. And Steve Parrish, you've ridden here many times, a bit slippery when it's wet.
Yes, it's not going to be a great deal of fun for these riders because the problem is it isn't raining that hard, so it'll be a real dilemma as to whether to fit full wet tyres, intermediates or even slicks, because if it stops raining and the sun comes out, then the track will dry within a couple of laps.
2.17 mile the circuit, and in shot there Ron Haslam, the Grand Prix regular. He's on having an off day due to injury from the Grand Prix circuit. His nephew John Gain is competing, and Ron there lending a hand. Yeah,
if Ron's not careful, he's going to injure himself even more, I think. They look like they don't have a stand for the bike, so they're actually holding it up while they change the rear wheel. So a real problem there, but it seems as like they've got major problems, more than just changing a wheel. There's so many spanners laying down there. The wheel change should just take about 5 seconds, but they're making a meal of this one.
That's the rear caliper going on to the disc there. The umbrellas in abundance here at Cadwell. The riders are trying to get off on their warm-up lap. Across the front row, Hislop is on pole. Bosworth next to him, then Kevin Mitchell. Number 5, Ian Newton was 4th quickest this morning. And the Northern Ireland contender, Wolsey Coulter, number 18, completes the front row. Across the back, second row, we've got Jupp, number 10, McManus, number 53, Rob Orme, number 6, and Ian McConaughey. And Ian McConaughey and Rob Orme, riders number 4 and 6, respectively, will be very fast indeed. McConaughey, as well, is riding one of those very quick Aprilia AF1 machines. Ian McConaughey from Chesterfield. He's on the second row, so look for him to burst through. But we have a red light up in the corner. The man with the red flag is moving away from the start area now. 12 laps will be the distance. Hearts in mouths. Hands on stopwatches for the 250s.
Somebody at the back of the grid seems to have stalled their machine, so there's going to be a slight hold up here.
That's David Heel. That's David Heel, number 20. David Heel has called the marshal across for some assistance.
This won't be pleasing any of the other riders because whilst their engines are running, the temperature will be getting up, and they could have problems with engines boiling up and stuff like this. So if he's not clear to go in a couple of minutes, then I think he'll be pushed off the grid.
Well, they are indeed moving David Heel, number 20, backwards off the grid now. Whether he will be allowed to bump start at the back, your guess is as good as mine, but he's definitely on the back line. The hand goes up. The flag marshal is now away. Watch the lights. They're away, and a roaring start through for number 17, Mark Barker. Absolutely shot through, number 17, Mark Barker. Hot behind him is Martin Jupp from Cannock. We've seen a lot of Martin Jupp in the 1989 series, and he's away. So, Mark Barker, number 17, leads. Obviously one of those people, as Steve Parrish says, relishes riding in the wet, because Barker took his courage in both hands and came through from the third row to snatch the lead as the lights changed.
Well, it looked from my view that the front row weren't even ready for the start, because it was incredible the way he came through from the third row. Steve Hislop's got an appalling start, and I'm sure he wasn't even looking at the right lights. I don't quite know what's gone on there.
Caution, very much the name of the game for everyone in the 250cc Super Cup round 2, as number 17 Mark Barker leads.
And it was a very ragged start, and in fact the red flag is coming out, and it was a false start because it didn't look at all good, the fact that the third row were passing the front row, and we have a faller already, and this man's not going to be at all happy as he picks his machine up. If he can get back to the start, number 16, he can actually make the restart.
Well, that's Alan Patterson from Northern Ireland. He's a very tough, hardy campaigner, so Patterson can, as you say, get back. He won't know, of course, Steve, at this moment that the race has been stopped.
That's true, and he could be tearing after the leaders and fall off again if he's not careful, but he just slid off on the second gear Mansfield corner, which was quite unfortunate, but you can see now the red flag is out, and all riders are well aware of that problem. I would think that most of them were hoping for a restart because of the shabby start we had here.
Well, I'm glad I didn't throw my list of the starting grid away, because we're going to need it again as the riders come round to reform. The red flag is being held prominently on the starting grid. The start marshal will invite the front 5 to make it through to the front. Let's take another look at just what happened there. And through, just like the front line, as Steve Parrish said, the front row simply didn't get away. So there was some misunderstanding there somewhere.
Yeah, there wasn't really a problem with the start, because the red light came on and then the green, but it seemed that the front runners weren't even ready and in gear. That's most important. Obviously, your machine is revving high and you're in first gear, but the race has now been cut back to an 11-lap race.
11 laps to go. So across the front row again, I remind you, Hislop on pole. He'll be pleased because he's having another shot at getting away. Nigel Bosworth, Kevin Mitchell, Ian Newton and Wolseley Coulter complete the front. And one man who will be very fed up in all this will be the fellow who shot away Mark Barker. Many, many national successes, and he was about to achieve stardom in the eyes of the television viewer.
Yeah, with the lead he had on the first lap, there was no reason at all why he shouldn't have won the race. He just had to keep things going. And the man that fell off, Mr. Patterson, has pulled into the pits now, so it looks like he must have broken something on the machine. These machines are very delicate. You only need to tip off at slow speeds, and it breaks footrests and gear levers and brake levers off. So he is now unfortunately retired. A lot of the riders will be quite pleased that it's a restart, I think, because they've now had an extra lap to warm the tyres up. And in fact, we can now see the track drying, so this could be very, very interesting.
11 laps the distance now. 1 lap has been taken off because of that. So 11 laps the full distance in an endeavour to keep the race programme running something according to the original time schedule. Let's see if Steve Hislop can get off the line now. He's certainly looking sharper this time. Watch the lights in the top left-hand corner of your screen. There's a red, there's a green, and they're away. And Hislop does indeed drag away. The front row get away this time in unison. Number 5, Ian Newton, is right in the middle of the picture, and Newton gets it ahead of Steve Hislop. So, on the first lap, going up Coppice towards Charlie's, the right-hander, Newton leads Steve Hislop, and that looks to me as though Nigel Bosworth is in 5th. We'll pick them up as they accelerate down here to the fastest part of the circuit. They'll still be going fairly gingerly on this first lap.
Yeah, I think so. They're now reaching speeds of close on 140 miles an hour, but they'll be very gingerly braking into this corner. Then Steve Hislop takes the inside line, squeezes the brakes on down into second gear. Steve Hislop's machine didn't look that fast on the straightaway, and I would have thought that he would have had the speed, but he hasn't, and you can see carefully taking. You won't see any knees rubbing on the floor in this race, I don't think.
Well, Steve Hislop from Hoyk, still the fastest man around the Isle of Man TT circuit, despite the fact he had no wins in the TT this year. He still holds the outright, I beg your pardon, lap record. Cadwell Park will hold no fear for Hislop.
No, none whatsoever. And you can see Wolseley Coulter is now in a perfect position, sitting number 18, sitting in second spot. He can watch Steve Hislop, he can gauge, as I was about to say, stay behind him, but he's not. He's gone underneath him as they come into the hairpin. And you can see at that point, there's quite a lot of water down there, water splashing up from these tyres, and he takes the lead. I would say that all 3 of these riders here are on full wet tyres.
Interesting situation as well for number 18, Wolseley Coulter, leading the race. He, in fact, is sponsored by Queen's University of Belfast, and that was a project undertaken by that particular university many, many years ago by the then Dr. Gordon Blair, who specialised in 2-stroke tuning, exhaust development, and has been heavily involved in motorcycle racing ever since. That's certainly an interesting project for any university to become involved in.
Yeah, it's been a great help to the university has been a great help to a lot of the Irish riders. In fact, they do development work for Yamaha at this very moment, and they've always used their technology amongst some of the Irish riders, and it certainly seems to be paying dividends at this moment as Wolseley Coulter is steaming away there. And Stevie Hislop now has the chance to sit behind him and let him gauge the race speed.
Kevin Mitchell on that very quick TZ Yamaha there in 3rd place, so number 3, Kevin Mitchell, is in third, but he's under pressure from Martin Jupp, who's very, very close indeed. So the race leader, Wolsey Coulter, number 18. In second place, it's 8, Steve Hislop. In third place, it's number 3, Kevin Mitchell. And in fourth place, it's Martin Jupp, number 10.
The track is actually drying now, so we're likely to see the speeds creeping up, but I don't think there's any chance of being a perfectly dry line for this race. So you'll see the riders. It makes it much harder to make any passing manoeuvres when you get a dry line. And the dry line is caused by the warm tyres that are getting the heat in them, drying the line out. And so to pass someone, you have to move off of that line onto the wet patch, which makes it very, very difficult to make any easy passing manoeuvre.
Race leader, Wolsey Coulter, from Northern Ireland, 7th in the 1989 Shell Oil Super Cup competition, hoping to go much better this time if he possibly can. Coulter, in fact, is lying third at the moment after the first round with 8 points. So if he were to carry on and pick up a 10 here, 18 points would move him into a very strong position indeed. There's Kevin Mitchell. Kevin Mitchell, as we were saying in the warm-up, has taken over the seat vacated by Neil Mackenzie on the 250 Chas Mortimer Yamaha on the Grand Prix scene, Mackenzie having moved onto the 500s. And that TZ Yamaha of Mitchell's in third place has some very quick bits.
Yeah, well, we just actually saw he passed Steve Hislop on the straightaway there. They have had some special parts delivered to them for this meeting, and it seems to be paying dividends at this moment, because he's just passed Steve Hislop on the Honda down the straight. So now he's on another part of the fastest part of the circuit, so we'll see if he can stretch that lead, and he'll be trying to make inroads into Wolsey Coulter's lead now.
Well, the lead that Wolsey Coulter has on lap 3 is stretching all the time, but Mitchell now is closing. So we have Yamaha leading Yamaha, the Queen's University Belfast Yamaha, very specially tweaked and very specially developed, ahead of what amounts to a factory TZ250.
I would say a semi-factory. It's not the out-and-out machine that a lot of the Grand Prix riders are using, but it would be right in the middle there. It's definitely better than a standard machine. But it's going to be very hard push to use all that horsepower on these conditions. You can see a little bit wide there, but carefully does it.
A lot of the Northern Ireland contingent, and Wolsey Coulter, one of them, of course, do a lot of road racing, true road racing in Northern Ireland on the roads, and that means that they're very used to the sort of going here at Cadwell. They don't mind seeing the Armco barrier. They're not terribly bothered by the odd tree dotted around, and they just slide up on the grass. They take the courage of their convictions and go for it. But the race now hotting up, these four getting away. Coulter leads, Mitchell, number 3, is in second place. Then it's Steve Hislop, number 8, on the Honda UK, the factory Honda, Steve Hislop. But it's an RS Honda, it's not the NSR that the Grand Prix riders use.
No, it's a pretty standard machine, I believe, and he's had a lot of problems early on in the season. He's been competing in the European Championships and had 1 or 2 reliability problems, but they seem to have sorted this out now. The bike ran very, very well in the Isle of Man when he finished a close second. But I think he's struggling here a little bit today. The tyres are going to make a great amount of difference, and I would think if anybody's opted for intermediate tyres, they would have a very good chance of winning this race, because there's no doubt about it, the track is drying. With another 7 laps to go, there's a good chance that intermediate tyres will be the winning tyre.
Look at Mitchell now, right up on the back wheel, just 4 or 5 machine lengths in it. Kevin Mitchell right there now with Wolsey Coulter. 28 years of age, Kevin Mitchell from Burton-on-Trent. 8 years on the Grand Prix scene, and that experience now paying off, because he's having a look first on the left, then on the right of Wolsey Coulter as they come down towards the gooseneck. Flicks it through, heading down now towards Mansfield. The knees go out, Mitchell is in front, Coulter now in second place. So Kevin Mitchell has the lead on the Chas Mortimer Yamaha, but Wolsey Coulter fighting back. So we really do have a battle royal at the front of the 250cc Super Cup at Cadwell. Despite the damp track, it's still damp, but it's not really wet.
No, you can see the dry lines slowly creeping through there, and there's no doubt about it. The lap times are coming down and down. I don't think we'll see the lap record broken here today, but Kevin Mitchell is now going to stretch that lead out. He looks very, very comfortable, very smooth, and I don't think that Wolsey Coulter's got an answer for this speed, and I believe that Wolsey Coulter is on full rain tyres. So as it dries out, there's a good chance that Kevin Mitchell's going to be able to stretch this lead.
No points at all so far for Kevin Mitchell, because when we were racing at Snetterton, he was away on Grand Prix duty. So if he picks up 10 now, it'll be the first 10, but it will indeed put him in a very strong position. Wolsey Coulter, number 18, having another look, but fighting back. So Mitchell leads Wolsey Coulter well into the race now. They've dropped the other two away. We are not quite at halfway. But what a terrific 250 battle this is turning out to be, albeit between these two. They've got away now from the third and fourth place men. So Steve Hislop really has no answer, and I am astonished that Hislop isn't closer than this.
Yes, again, I think that Steve Hislop was on full rain tyres, and with the track drying, it can cause major problems. In that those heavily cut tyres we were looking at earlier get very, very hot, and in fact they start to melt and get very, very gooey and then lose traction. So I would think he's probably struggling with his tyre choice, but who was to know what the conditions are going to turn out like?
So storming on now, Kevin Mitchell on the TZ 250 Yamaha, right with him Wolsey Coulter on the QUB, the Queen's University Belfast Yamaha, alongside. A good test of the speed of these two as to which one will get it going in at the bottom of the mountain. They'll come over here side by side, and Wolsey Coulter ran on the grass. A case of running out of brakes.
Yeah, he just went in too deep, and I think he got on a wet patch, and as you saw, he drove on the white line, and they are absolutely treacherous in these conditions. Those white lines become very, very slippery when they get wet and damp, so he did extremely well to stay on, but it's lost him a great deal of ground, and I think he'll be hard pushed to make that back up.
Kevin Mitchell capitalised on that, no mistake. Coming down now towards Barn Corner, they will be exiting and coming down towards the start-finish line. As they come past, it's Mitchell, Wolsey Coulter over the line in second place, waiting for the third man. Third man is Martin Jupp. Number 44 is up to fourth, and that is John Gainey. Ron Haslam's nephew is up to fourth. In fifth place now, it's Ian Luffer. Hislop is down to sixth. So Steve Hislop slipping backwards all the time. Can it be tyres?
I think it must be that he was on rain tyres, and I can only assume that with the track drying out, the tyres have overheated, which is a great shame for Steve Hislop, who made such an immaculate start. But nevertheless, Kevin Mitchell is the man to watch at this moment. But Martin Jupp is also coming up through the field. He's in third spot. He's a long way behind, but he's come right the way through the pack. So he's a man we've got to watch. But with only 4 laps to go, I think there's very little chance that he's going to two flying front runners.
John Gainey as well, number 44. That's a good result for him. We've not seen him so far up in a British Championship or a Super Cup race. But these two locked in a tussle for the lead, Mitchell and Wolsey Coulter. Now, he recovered from that setback, and he's right alongside. He's having another go at virtually the same place. They're leaning on each other going in to the bottom of the mountain. Now, Kevin Mitchell will be well aware that this is where Wolsey Coulter overcooked it, but he's round this time, and he's taken the lead again. Well,
I'm very impressed with Wolsey Coulter, and the Queen's University of Belfast have done a fantastic job on his engine, because it's equally as fast as Kevin Mitchell's semi-factory Yamaha, so they've certainly got it going well. And he's charging into the mountain section. I had no idea that he would make this sort of ground back up.
Number 18, race leader Wolsey Coulter on the Yamaha. He's now 5 or 6 lengths away from the second place man, Kevin Mitchell. Just 26, Wolsey Coulter. He's been racing motorcycles since 1983, and mainly in the 250 class, and that's obviously why he is so quick here today, particularly in the wet. He's used to the 250. He had a good season in 1988 with wins here at Cadwell. He goes well round Cadwell. Over halfway through the race now, Coulter leads. And his best result of the 88 season was third in the European Championship event at Donington. And on that occasion, he was beaten by Wilco Zeelenberg, who's now going very well in the Grand Prix.
I see that John Gainey is now up into third spot, so Ron Haslam's experience there on the grid, changing tyres, was a very valid piece of experience, because it seems as though he's on intermediate tyres and he's coming through the pack very, very quickly now.
I understand that not only does Ron Haslam help John Gainey, he assists him financially, and there's a bit of part sponsorship there as well. That's
right. Ron is, I think Ron's protégé, and he's come up from 6th spot. He's all the way through into 3rd position now, but I don't think he can catch these front two, but he certainly could get the fastest lap.
So an awful lot going on behind the battle at the front, and the battle at the front is very much alive, with Wolsey Coulter leading Kevin Mitchell. And I have to say that I don't think Kevin Mitchell would want to give second best to this man.
No, I don't think he was expecting it at all, and I don't think any of us here were. But Wolsey Coulter, he qualified in 5th spot, so he obviously wasn't hanging around in the dry practice this morning. And it seems that his tyre choice has been very good. A lot of the times that your tyre choice is good is the fact that you don't have spare wheels and you can't change, and it depends how organised you are leading up to the race as to how many spare wheels and tyres that you have to slip in at the last minute. But what he's done is right, obviously.
Past the start-finish area, Coulter leads Kevin Mitchell again. Yamaha leads Yamaha. Number 10, Martin Jupp, goes through in 3rd place. Now, Martin Jupp is on yet another Yamaha. He was 6th in the Supercup in 1989. And Gainey now is storming on, so Gainey is up into 3rd.
Yeah, he's got a lot of ground to make up, but you can see he's pulled away from the pack behind, so he's pulled away from the 4th place man now. And there's a little battle as they go up into the park curve there.
The 3rd man now winding the leading 2 in, and at this stage in the race it'll be interesting to see if the 3rd place man can do anything about these two, because their battle, and tell us, Steve, would a battle of this sort pull you away from the opposition, or does it allow them to close?
Well, it looks as though it is pulling them away, but it can mostly slow you up, because you're each taking each other's line as you go into corners, and if someone dives up the inside of you, it makes you run wide and slows you up. And often the case is that the 3rd place man could easily catch you, and John Gainey is just in our picture there. You can see he has closed that gap. So, but I don't think in the remaining laps he can make up this time. But Kevin Mitchell could have a little bit up his sleeve. He's well in touch there. He could just be leaving it till the end.
Coming into the bottom of the mountain, that's number 44, John Gainey. These are the race leaders. Number 18, Wolsey Coulter. In 2nd place, number 3, Kevin Mitchell. But Mitchell hasn't let go, flicking it down through the gearbox, round the hairpin, down towards Barn Corner. The right-hander exiting Barn will come over the line one more time. Wolsey Coulter, number 18, leads. 2nd place, Kevin Mitchell. And closing now, number 44, John Gainey. So John Gainey, number 44, from Langley Mill, Ron Haslam's nephew, is in 3rd place. Here he is now, and has his eyes set firmly on the rear end, if I can put it that way, of Kevin Mitchell's Yamaha.
Yep, and Mitchell has got the fastest lap. It seems as though the times are coming down. The track is virtually bone dry now, so anybody on full rain tyres will be having real problems. It isn't such much of a problem on these smaller machines, but on a big site you would have to pull in, because there's no way they could handle the power on these dry conditions.
Well, number 44, John Gainey, was not in the top 10 at the round 1 at Snetterton, and I can only suspect that his bike simply isn't quick enough to get him in the top 10 at Snetterton. But here at Cadwell Park, where the track is damp, it's a very different kettle of fish indeed. Ian Luffer, the man who won the 1990 Junior TT, just 1.8 seconds ahead of Steve Hislop, is in 4th place. So Ian Luffer has really benefited from that experience in the TT.
Yeah, nobody had heard much of Ian Luffer until this year's Isle of Man TT, but he's certainly riding better. It's obviously boosted his confidence, and I would say that a lot of people have supported him a bit more with his machine, because it seems to be going a lot better. And all credit to Ian Luffer. A lot of people come back from the TT and don't ride so well on short circuits. Well, it's certainly improved his riding on this tight, twisty circuit here at Cadwell Park.
So Luffer in 4th place. This is the race leader. Number 18, Wolsey Coulter, from Kevin Mitchell, from John Gainey, and John Gainey is right there. This is the battle now for 4th, 5th and 6th place. So Ian Luffer, Steve Hislop and Martin Jupp are all there, tangled up together. What a tremendous race this is turning out to be in the dying stages. As Martin Jupp goes over, past the commentary point, the race at the front, tremendous.
Yeah, I would say Gainey is almost certainly has intermediate tyres on. You can see from the angle of lead that he's sticking the bike in. He's still got plenty of traction here, so he could easily get 2nd position here, because he's right behind Mitchell now. Mitchell is having problem on the corners.
As the riders go away from us, but they're all closing up in that 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th place. And there's Mitchell with John Gainey. So John Gainey on the inside line at the top of the circuit. As they go round Chris Curve, they come down now towards the gooseneck. The gooseneck, I remind you, where Alan Carter threw it away. The rest of the pack streaming down behind them. This is the race leader, Wolsey Coulter. The battle now closing up for 2nd, 3rd. And Gainey is through to second. Mitchell has been pushed down to fourth because Ian Luffer has gone through. So what a turn up for the book, Steve Parish. Kevin Mitchell now down in fourth, and the race really on for second, third, fourth and fifth. And Steve Hislop fighting back now, so I have no idea what the tyre situation is, but you can see a lot of these riders have come through the pack, started off slowly, and they're really charging now. A freight train of 250s, but the man right out in front, Wolsey Coulter. Second place, John Gainey. Then it's Steve Hislop in fourth, ahead of Mitchell, who is down in fifth. Looking for the exit from Barn. We'll be looking now for the number 18 of Wolsey Coulter. The last lap flag being readied, so a little over 2 miles now for Coulter to do. Let's count them through as they come past. Gainey, it's number 30, and that is Graham Mitchell. Graham Mitchell, number 30, is up to third, so he slipped through unnoticed, caught us unawares. Now taken the fastest lap at a 1:40.75, so they're still around about 8 seconds off the lap record, but on these tyres than they would be, because it takes slick tyres to break lap records. It's the only possibility. Well, you know a bit about truck driving, Steve Parish, and Graham Mitchell is a truck driver. Ian Luffer is a truck driver. Is there any similarity? Well, I've changed from motorcycles to trucks, but they seem to have done it the other way, and very successfully also. So the third place man, number 30, Graham Mitchell from Preston in Lancashire. The 26-year-old truck driver has really battled his way through into third place and is in a very threatening position and is making overtures to John Gainey, number 44. But safely in the lead, number 18, Wolsey Coulter, drops down the back part of the circuit for the last time. The last lap flag is out. He is on his last lap with a little over a mile to do as he comes into the bottom of the mountain turn. He throws it left, right up the mountain. Watch the front wheel, but someone's closing. It's not all over yet. A last gasp sprint it's going to be. There's Wolsey Coulter through Hall Bends. That looks like number 30, Graham Mitchell, right behind him, and it is indeed. Number 30, Graham Mitchell, just look at him close. Is he going to get past Coulter as they make a dash round Barn? They're coming rather hairpin, coming down to Barn. It's all about the sprint to the line. Number 30, Graham Mitchell, is having a go. Can he come out of the slipstream? No, he can't. Coulter gets it from Mitchell, from Gainey, from Hislop, and number 9, Ian Luffer, took fifth. A scintillating finish. How about that? An incredible ride from Graham Mitchell. I can only assume that he probably had slick tyres on, because he was storming. He came from 10th place on lap 5 right the way through to a very, very close second. It was superb. Coulter looked over the shoulder as much. Now, who the dickens was that? But he got it by a whisker. Your race winner, number 18, Wolsey Coulter, and he moves on to 18 points in the 250 Super Cup. Mitchell, Gainey, Hislop, Luffer, and Kevin Mitchell was 6th.